I think now more it's either you're focusing on really strong, really good, high quality content, or SEO is getting pushed more into the product realm.
We're going to have to start looking outside of SaaS if you haven't already for your marketing and your messaging inspiration.
Brands really need to invest in finding unique ways to stand out.
They may not search the way we search today. They may search by image. They may search by video. They may search by blast.
But it's going to be that type of human-focused content. It's going to still be helping people find the information they're looking for, helping them throughout their journey.
And if we can approach it from that perspective, understanding credibility and suitability, that's where we're going to win the SEO game long term.
For many years now, you see these clickbait YouTube videos or articles, SEO is dead, and so on. But SEO is still here, right? I would like to hear your thoughts on the future of SEO, if there is actually a future for SEO professionals. And if there is, what would you say that future will look like?
Yeah. I think the future of SEO, as long as there are websites, there will be SEO. And we've heard SEO is going to be dead, 10 years. I've heard that 5, 6, 7 times. Here's an SEO killer. It will never kill it. I think a lot of the kind of more spammy, blasting links, doing all the fun stuff that we did back in the day, like that, I think is dead. I think now more it's either you're focusing on really strong, really good, high quality content, or SEO is getting pushed more in at least our world, into the product realm. So product management and SEO product management is kind of this new or new-ish thing that some companies are doing and some companies aren't. I think that SEO is going to be less of a marketing activity and more of a product activity where it's an investment in the product, or at least in how the product is implemented, for SEO professionals to be working with designers, working with the engineers who are building these to do it in a scalable, efficient, correct way. Where if we're spending the money to maintain these products, like we can leverage these products to generate SEO or generate value by taking user input, creating additional pages and additional value, and kind of pushing that out in the world. So I think SEO is going to move a lot stronger in the product direction for kind of larger, particularly marketplaces, but larger companies, larger websites. And then you're going to have that focus still on really strong, high quality content. And I think we both know, we've seen AI content. I think you can kind of tell when you read it. And I think users and readers are really smart and discerning. And if they come somewhere and they see this, frequently they're like, okay, I can't trust this brand anymore. Or they're taking the shortcut, they're giving me garbage, I'm going to go somewhere else.
There is a future of SEO and online marketing. It's not dead. People have been saying it's dead for ages. We built the 21st fastest growing company in the United States, according to Inc. magazine, through SEO. Now, we've done many things since then to continually grow. SEO will not build you the biggest company in the world or anything like that, nor will paid advertising, but you're going to have to take an omni-channel approach. You're going to have to do SEO. You're going to have to do email marketing. People say email marketing has been dead for ages and people don't use email. Yet MailChimp sold for double-digit billions. So is email marketing really dead if MailChimp sold for that much? Or look at Klaviyo. Klaviyo filed to go public. And what I read online is they either do 600 or 700 million a year in revenue. Email marketing can be dead if they're doing that much in revenue, right? But we all have these notions in our head. Oh, there's this new shiny object, TikTok. We should be spending all our time on that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't leverage TikTok, but there's all these old, boring, ugly channels that still produce massive ROIs. You should be doing those first because they're proven, and then spend a portion of the time on TikTok and whatever else is new that people are talking about.
The future is all about entity understanding. Google's understanding in the entity, and I think what people are missing, and I've said this before in this episode, is the confidence it has in that understanding. And for understanding, what it's looking for is close, strong, and long relationships. The closer, the stronger, the longer, the better. So we need to build up that understanding of the machine using our understanding of how knowledge graphs work, how our human brains work. And the better we can build up that understanding about who we are, what we do, and who we serve, the more Google is going to be able to match its perception of its users' need to its perception or its understanding of what we actually offer. And then once it's understood that we offer the same thing as a competitor, the difference between the two will be the credibility, which is expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. And that's going to be basically the foundational key: understanding, credibility. And then the third one is actually suitability, which is an interesting concept, which is if it's understood what I offer corresponds to the needs of its user, it's understood that I'm the most credible solution, but is my content in the correct format to be suitable to be used in its SERP? Because what it wants to do is fill its SERP with the content that's going to best serve its users. So you have a triple concept that we're going to need to work towards, that I've been talking about for a couple of years now, is we need to focus on Google's understanding of what we do, who we are, and who our audience is, its appreciation of our credibility as a legitimate solution, the best solution for its user, and creating content or presenting our offers in a format that is suitable for Google's product, because Google's product is its SERP. Google's selling the SERP as a product to its users, then it's the advertising that pays for it, obviously. And if we can approach it from that perspective, understanding credibility and suitability, that's where we're going to win the SEO game long term.
So I think we're just going to see a continuation of the trend, which is, SaaS is moving away from rocket ships and towards toilet paper in terms of commoditization. That's not to say SaaS is toilet paper. Like it's not more valuable than toilet paper. It is, arguably. but what I mean is, going forward, there's just going to be lower barriers to entry, not higher barriers to entry. There's going to be more competitors, not fewer. They're going to do a better job, not a worse job of competing. And so when you get that, what you end up with is categories loaded with perfectly good solutions, doing a really good job of communicating what they do. And so we're going to have to start looking outside of SaaS, if you haven't already, for your marketing and your messaging inspiration. We should be looking at, CPG, like packaged goods. We should be looking at them for inspiration because they have a long history of trying to win despite competing against very similar products, trying to stand out, be memorable, be noticed. So yeah, to me, that is like the biggest trend that I've got my eyes on right now. And that's where I think this idea of telling a category story, why us, not them, and this idea of, moonshot messaging, that Coda example, saying things that aren't just accurate and that aren't relevant to your customers, but kind of go a step further than that and are risky and jarring and stand a chance of actually being noticed and recalled, like we both did here, despite not being customers of the company. That's kind of where I see us.
One thing I've been believing more and more is that if you go back a few years, whenever it was that Brian Dean wrote that post about skyscraper, right? And I'm sure people have come to you and said, hey, can we get a skyscraper for something? And now everybody does it. And now the whole, everything in the SaaS space is filled up with these just monstrosities of big guides. And to be honest, I've contributed to this. So I have I can't even knock it too much. Right? Yeah, everyone has. And we do there's this weird dissonance that marketers do where they separate the way that they know they behave as humans, as searchers, as customers, as whatever, relative to the work that they do. And I think I have a decent attention span overall, but for a regular human being in almost 2022, it means I have no attention span. I'm going in and out of searches all day. I barely read anything. I'm a content marketer in a way, and I still have a hard time sitting there and reading everything. I've looked at, Hotjar data with heat maps and videos, and a lot of people read stuff, but a lot of it is the most just up and down and all over the place. And anyway, what that leads me to is I'm seeing more and more signs from Google that they don't need to see everything on a page for it to do well. So the current thinking right now is if you want to be an expert on whatever the topic is, you need to bludgeon your audience to death with the history of what is this, how to do it, best practices, blah, blah, blah. And one thing I saw with looking at the way people interacted with that Hotjar content I mentioned is when we had shorter pages that were divided up, people were able to navigate and go directly to what they wanted. And so I think that'll get more popular. And then the next step of that is Google is going to get better at not even needing to have all the relevant terms and everything written down on a page. So between interactive content where you sort of, it's not that the traditional thing where you say, hey, this page needs to get a ClearScope score of whatever, and everything needs to be on it. It's going to be a lot more about depth and alternative formats like video. I've seen interesting things, even from, I've taken inspiration from places like the New York Times, where they have content that you click through and it's multiple choice. Ultimately, when you look at the way people interact with all media, they like TikTok, Instagram has their whatever product, YouTube has their whatever product. It's all about all these quick hits and letting people opt in and make choices. So why is it that our search strategies are assuming that people want to read novels every day as they research basic things? Like, it doesn't add up. And the reason we do it is because it's what works. And I'm starting to see more and more signs, and whenever I see them, I share them with my team and close friends in the industry, of content that's ranking that totally defies all the other content. It is either, sort of a slideshow clicking through, maybe it's a video, maybe it's other stuff. And like everything in SEO, Google tests things and then more and more. And then when something starts working, more people do it. And then the floodgates will open and everyone will start to do it. So I think in, I don't know how many years, like maybe 3, 4, 5, we're going to look back and say, whoa, like now we're creating content. The content we're creating is similar to these other channels. And we're going to say, wow, do you remember the time when we used to pay writers a bunch of money to write 10,000 word articles? Oh, wow, that was kind of ridiculous, wasn't it? So anyway, that's my sort of big hypothesis for the future.
That's a great question and a great point. I think in SaaS SEO, especially, things can tend to be a little templatized. We know the things that work and those things get replicated, and we see a lot of SaaS companies with different types of products targeting a lot of the same things. So I think, over these next few years, I mean, it's going to sound a little cliche, but brands really need to invest in finding unique ways to stand out, creating more content around authenticity, or that's authentic, and investing more in thought leadership and, being open to having guest contributors that have expertise in certain areas. I mean, I can speak to that for ClickUp. We have so many features and use cases. Our authors really shouldn't be the source for everything, and to be open to that, to finding people that can speak maybe a little bit more agile, because it is their in their workflow every single day. I think the brands that invest in those things are going to win and stand out in a space that's getting much more and more noisy, and also paying closer attention to the people that are testing different strategies. I mean, really all the guests on your show, like pretty much every episode, you learn something unique that particular team has tried and has seen success, or has tried and has failed. And I think the brands that pay attention to those things are the ones that are going to be able to stay in the game or stay ahead.
And I love when people say that. So like, Google doesn't do everything well. I mean, look at all the things that Google shut down. So is there a future for publishers? Google's not going to do on the ground reporting in places. That's Google News. Like, they want to aggregate the news, but if the news sites went away, then Google would have nothing to be in the news. So we need content. If we want to understand what the size of the SEO opportunity is, you just go straight to the numbers. So I don't know how much of this they share, but like, you could look at the Google earnings reports and you could try to figure out what the click-through rate is on ads, like how much money is made from that click-through rate. You could also look at the average click-through rate on any PPC blog and try to calculate the revenue that comes from that click-through rate. So let's say that revenue is 10%. Let's say the revenue Google makes, I don't remember it, so I'm not going to make up a number, but it's billions, hundreds of billions. It comes from a 10% click-through rate. So all of that is 10%, right? Now, give another 20 or 30% to zero-click search. Now multiply. So let's say we're at 30%, right? So we're at 30% is taken up 20% by zero-click search. 10% by clicks on ads, you now have 70% of all of the 2 trillion searches or whatever per month that are going to organic. That's the opportunity. What's the value of that opportunity? Well, you can just multiply that value to at least 2 times that total revenue number that Google earns. But I think it's so much higher. I think that organic number is much higher. So organic's never going to go away. Google will never be in the business of providing all the content that every website in the world will do. I mean, even from a local standpoint, they just can't. So, I mean, the search landscape is growing. And right now it's huge. Right now it's not dead, and it's only going to continue to grow. Google's spending billions of dollars on creating devices, system devices, and Android devices. They don't make money off of Android. They give it away for free, right? They sell a single phone, which I love. They sell the Pixel phone. And I don't think they make a ton of money off of that. It's really all about the Trojan horse. It's really all about doing more searches. They're not spending billions of dollars on this because people are going to stop searching. I had a client that told me that they didn't want to do SEO because they work with the younger people. Gen Z doesn't search. They just do Snap, Instagram. Great. I think that Google doesn't think so, that generations will continue to search long into the future. They may not search the way we search today. They may not search by typing things. They may search by image. They may search by voice. They may search by video. They may search by glasses, right? But what it comes down to is what their searches they're doing are all going to be for websites. Google is going to throw their images, and if you do a search for image, they'll show you an image, but it comes from a website. You do a search for a video, and back to your other question about competing with Google, the one place I think it's challenging to compete with Google is on video. But Google's aware of that, and there's a recent blog post about them talking to Vimeo and Twitch to try to get those into search, because that's a problem. That's a problem that when you do a video search, you basically only see YouTube, and the government's going to be like, hey, that's not right? So like they're trying to get those other videos and to be like, well, Twitch and video are here too. But when you do these searches, you're going to be finding other websites, and hopefully not just Google websites. So search is absolutely going to continue to grow differently than it is. Like, you imagine SEO did die 10 years ago. If all you were expected to do is do like a keyword search and click on something, it's completely changed.
So one of the things that I feel, especially with all of generative content coming along, is that the content and the SEO strategies and tactics that you choose will depend a lot on what stage your SaaS company is at. That's number one. Number two, I feel that probably the approach where SaaS companies use content just for SEO, that's going to change. There's going to be content that's not just optimized for SEO, but is also optimized for shareability, for example. Content that is more exciting, content that is more interesting to the reader, content that stands out from other SaaS companies. So that's going to be the second change that I see that's going to happen, simply because there's going to be so much more content with generative AI. Because I'm sure companies that don't have enough budget, they are going to try these tools where you can generate a blog post like probably $10, $20 and publish it on the website. So that's the second change. The third change that I'm looking at is there'll be a lot of content updates and very few new blog posts getting published, at least with established companies. For SaaS companies, I don't see a way, unlike a blog or a magazine, you're not going to create an infinite number of blog posts. You're going to create a finite number of blog posts that addresses the challenges that your users face. The value of your content for SaaS companies basically is not just about grabbing eyeballs, but also making sure that they get your ROI for whatever efforts you're publishing, or whatever efforts you're putting into publishing or updating the content. So those are the three things I think for SaaS companies, the future in SEO and content marketing. That's what it looks like to me.
I think there's a few things that will stay the same, right? There will be continued constant change on organic social channels, right? Like I know we're making investments in TikTok. You guys have seen our things, but that could change in the US, right? We could be looking at more Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts. So I think we'll continue to monitor, the changes on social. I think that's a big one. It's a huge channel for us. And I think there's definitely more, and we're seeing it now, right, is this kind of self-reported attribution. And again, how to attribute content to impacts within an organization. I think there will still be questions around it. I think there will still be certain opinions about which channels and which levers kind of make the biggest impact. For us, it will continue to be, we'll still make more investments in the kind of the digital world, right? Podcasts and videos to grow. And we'll continue to prove the value of a follower as best we can, as much as we can, right? So I think there's still going to be, I think, constant conversation about like proving the value of what a follower means, or like what an email subscriber means, until they become, a customer. It's the one of the hardest things to continue to do. And then I don't know. I think there we'll still see big investments in brand, right? Like I think we'll still see the influencer model is coming up, right? People hiring influencers to promote brands. I'm curious to see how that continues to go for some people. I think it's going to be interesting as we continue to want to desire attribution, but then also a need to serve our audience. And our audience, as we know, sometimes gets away from gated content. They want everything for free. So I think the challenge for content marketers is always like, how do we give our audience what they want, but still making measurable impacts will always continue.
15 years in the SEO industry. How do you think the next 50 years will be?
Feel so old when you say that. I think it's just going to continue to be human focused. It's going to be, whether it's written content, interactive content, whether it's on desktop, on your phone. It's not going to be on desktop. It's going to be, that type of human focused content. It's going to still be helping people find the information they're looking for, helping them throughout their journey, and doing it, as quickly as possible, both from a technical standpoint and an informational standpoint. It's just helping the user. People are busy now, so maybe more than ever. People need to find answers to questions quickly and have those answers be informative. And that's just going to be what it is. That's what it is now, and that's what it will continue to be.
I like it.
If I had $1, I think for like every time someone's come up to me and asked, why can't we just use ChatGPT to write 500 articles? I'd be rich. But I mean, I get it. I get, it for people to kind of be able to like write things so quickly and so effortlessly. I get that this is like an actual advancement, and I think we should always be embracing things that help us do our job better. I think in terms of like the future of content marketing, these tools like ChatGPT are going to help us be more productive by writing outlines or getting rid of writer's block or trying to get 50 ways to write something on Twitter to spruik one post. Like, I think we should be using it. So, but coupled with that, and I've had this hunch since I was at Health Match where we were creating medical content. And so medical content on Google is often reviewed by humans. And we knew we needed to have on there some really strong signals that we were taking it kind of like really seriously, and it was trusted content. And so we had medical reviewers listed. And now at Dovetail, again, I've adopted that. We have like subject matter experts listed on the page where they've reviewed content. And that's because I think content creation has become a little bit like the Wild Wild West, in that anybody can spin up a page and it can kind of look and sound right. And it's really hard for a user to differentiate what kind of looks and sounds right with what is really kind of solid and correct. And I think and it makes perfect sense. I think they should. I think Google are going to look for more signals that tell them that a real human touched this and a real human has agreed to put their name to it and verify it. And that will matter in rankings. I mean, the new experience signal in like the EAT, I think is a sign of that. And I think that's where we're going. We're going to a place where we need more signals. We should be giving more signals to our readers that we are giving them accurate, up-to-date, relevant information. And, you know, maybe it was written by a robot. That's totally fine. As long as it was checked by a human and fixed by a human, I think that gives the best information for people who are looking for it in Google.
I like that. It's a great view, and also I would say an optimistic one, because, you know, many people are concerned nowadays that we are going to be replaced by like AI and things like that. I would say that as long as we do things in a unique way, and, you know, we do things in a way that's not so easy for any system to replicate, I mean, we'll be fine. We just have to find ways to integrate those systems like into the ways that we work and, you know, in our process and so on and so forth. But I like the way you put it.
It's a difficult question. I think that what we had before in the times, the times of jolly and happiness and 0% interest rates, was SaaS companies getting investors and throwing a lot of money into PPC and just winning by that. And that was 5 years? Was it, you know, it was a very, at least based on recent memory, it feels like it was a very long time where some company just has $1 billion valuation based on nothing at all. Actually, and I think now in France, there was an AA company that has $250 million valuation, and they don't even have a team. So maybe that time is not really over yet, but in any case, that was SaaS marketing for a while, which is just dump a lot of money there, and then it freed up more, I guess, the organic space for other companies. You know, so they were either doing PPC or they're doing organic, but then their organic was difficult. So these new money-heavy companies, they were just throwing it into PPC. And so it was slightly, maybe a bit easier for the other companies to focus and to spend time on organic search, organic results. I think that we are now going to see that companies just don't have so much money to spend on ads on PPC. So they're going to have to adapt and find other ways in order to distribute their content. So yeah, it's going to be organic, and it's going to be, my negative assumption is that it's going to be polluted a bit. Not only the fact that they don't have money to spend on PPC, which means that they have to focus on organic. Also the fact that AI is going to make it so easy for them to create this content that it's just going to be just a sea of this kind of stuff. And so it's going to be more important for us, good marketers, to really understand and focus on the customer. Have this image, this mental image in your head of what that customer is and how they speak and what they're looking for. And not try to reach everyone, but try to reach that one person or those few people or that group of people. And then to speak their language and speak directly to them. So marketers now have to be much better at writing and communicating the value. And they're going to have to, they had to do it a while ago, but now especially I think it's going to be much more challenging, that they're going to have to really focus themselves and understand what they offer essentially and what benefits that they have and what value they bring to their customer. And if they cannot do that, they're going to be lost in this sea of just information, not even content, just information. You know, I don't think that in any way that there's going to be less content being produced from this point forward. It's going to be more. It's going to be a lot more. I saw a video on Twitter where a guy had a few API connections with ChatGPT and some other tool that he was using, and he was just publishing content every 5 minutes. it's a lot of content, and it's going to be a lot of crappy content. And I think that one way is that good content will more easily rise to the top. But also, if you're starting out, it's going to be difficult for Google or anyone to know that you have good content, and so you're going to have to be very innovative. Guerrilla marketing tactics maybe will come back. People jump from skyscrapers. I don't know. They will need to be much more innovative about attracting new attention, and the quality, the ones that are already established, they're going to have to, really have this conviction. They're going to have to double down on what is working for them. They're going to have to explore other areas that they think could also work for them, where their target audience is.
Yeah, that's a really good question and particularly timely. I've mentioned some of the things, but I think we can look to the next year to really be about, if you look at a market for all content strategy, we'll see a lot of content strategy acceleration, content creation acceleration. We'll see a lot of content refresh acceleration. So we'll see a lot more competition over the informational components of content. What that means is in 3, 4, 5 years, that will be so saturated that we can't compete over that anymore. That's just not going to be able to be a viable single tactic strategy anymore. So we have to start pushing ourselves a little bit. I think, what if you took your content that currently is acquisition content, that's just content strategy, like writing and maybe a couple branded assets, and thought differently about that? Like, could you provide an audible version of it? Like, could you provide a podcast and a downloadable ebook version of it so that I can save it in any format? What about if you had a blog, and instead of just being a blog, it was like Pinterest, and you could hard to save content that you wanted to come back to? And you provided a digital experience of a library to your users or to your prospects where they could save things and be logged in and access their whole library. What if you had to do that, what content would you write that would be different than what you write today? Like, it would have to be higher value. So you might have to give away more. You might have to start talking to your product team or your customer success team and really getting personal perspective on like expert level guidance that is beyond what's published on the internet today. Some people have talked about taking your informational content and putting a gate in front of it. That's going to be hard because you have to pay to play to have that discovered or create some sort of viral growth plan to get it out there in order to do that. What about the alternative, which is you still have the free content out there, but you allow people to consume in any media that they prefer, and they can also give you an email and download it or access it in your rich library. It feels to them like Kindle, that feels to them like they really have a valuable set of guides that they're going to learn from. They're training themselves for their future career, and you're benefiting because you're generating an obvious brand-aware, product-aware user who sees you as the expert in what you do. Instead of a print book, which used to be a really big trend for marketers to sort of create a book about their SaaS tool or a kind of thought leadership book. What if that was a part of your Kindle library or your Kindle-esque library access? We think about emotional resonance, personal perspective, uniqueness. Those are all going to be must-haves. Let's say you had, you have a robot that can dance, right? And that's like showing off what your SaaS tool can do. Can you make a digital experience that has that? Could you make a cool video game that is so awesome and retro, but like displays your time series data application or your conversational application? Like, I can chat with Mario-esque characters in a 1990s style game. Could you make it so cool that your digital experience is one that I would want to share? And could you think about like leveraging shareability as a way to build authority, right? Like I feel like SEOs, we have evangelized our channel for a long time, and it's amazing what's happening with that. TikTok and YouTube and Instagram are like search engines to younger folks. So if you look at the way people search for information are younger, that might not go to Google, making sure to have campaigns like that are cool enough that you can leverage them for SEO authority building, SEO link building, and also they would be cool enough that someone would want to share it on TikTok or would want to share it on Instagram. I mean, it's just really about thinking differently right now. And I think that there's a really cool opportunity for SEOs to really up-level our careers and our growth by like putting our toe in the water in other media that we might typically not go to, or in other channels that we might typically not affect.